Hello, good afternoon. My name Muhammad Suhail bin Sofian. I'm leader for this group. My ID number is 2017-615-5078. I'm from class SR117 Part 6. COVID-19 hitting South Korea hard as economic contract and export tumble. The coronavirus is beating deeply into the South Korean economy, even as authorities chase down a fresh outbreak of the bug from its origin in the nightclub of Seoul Flashly Itaewon Street District. The latest report from the Korean Development Institute Seoul leading economic think tanks begin bluntly. The Korean economy is fast contracting as consumption and export decrease on the negative impact of COVID-19. On the heel of slumping sales on the domestic market in March, say the KDI report, export in April received significantly in all items and destination, while motor vehicle plants suspended their operation due to falling export volumes. It says manufacturing in general exhibited a continuing decline. The reason? The negative impact of COVID-19 in the manufacturing industry. Some of the numbers told the story. Export in April plummeted 24.3%, down 36.9 billion from April 2019 for a trade deficit of 950 million after more than 8 years of non-stop supply. By sector, motor vehicle export were down 36.3%, petroleum product down 56.8%, petrochemical 33.6%, and semiconductors 14.9%. Overall export to the leading foreigner buyers, China, were over 17.9%. Export to the US, the second biggest market, were down 13.5%. Not surprised, import were also down 15.9%. The number was in the first 10 days of May. Korean custom report export in that time frame down 46.3% from the same period last year, 6.9 billion from 12.5 billion. Import fell sharply to but stay alarmingly worse in the first 10 days of May. Korean custom report export in that time frame down 46.3% from the same period last year, 6.9 billion from 12.5 billion. Import fell sharply to but stay alarmingly ahead of import, 9.6 billion from the same 10 day, down 37.2% year on year.
Today, I would like to describe my research for public policy briefly in South Korea. So, public policy are the government steps to change the country policy. Of course, near here, we also learn the kind of revenue that the government can get. So, we will learn the title of tax. The tax is a burden for normal citizens. but for the government, it is a revenue. Next is the government revenue. From December 2009, the change is 8.36%. That means 443,893 Korean won. To January 2020, is decreased by negative 88.690%. That means 49,003 Korean won.
Okay.
Then there are different types of tax in South Korea: income tax, corporate tax, value add tax. First, income tax. Regarding Korean resident and citizen, the tax rate is more than 300 million Korean won. That means 38%. Next, corporate tax. The tax rate is over 20 billion Korean won, 22%. Third, VAT, value add system, is applied standard rate 10%. Tax free system, the last one. For example, tax free system, residents who don't stay in South Korea are eligible for tax free shopping. So this is the policies that South Korea made to limit the spread of COVID-19. To limit the spread of COVID-19, responsible for more than 100,000 deaths in United States by the end of the May. Many areas have imposed stay-at-home orders, causing severe economic damage and putting millions out of work. Voters and policy makers are now wrestling with how to balance saving life with saving livelihoods. That is not a choice that had to be made in South Korea, however, which had no lockdown and fewer than 300 deaths by the end of the May. There was a different cost, however, people had to give up their privacy. Note and analysis by Penn State. While many countries, starting with China, use lockdown to fight the coronavirus, the South Korean government took a different tack that include widespread testing and the quarantine only people who tested positive for the virus. But beyond that, it created a robust contact tracing program detailing the place virus-infected patients had visited prior to receive a positive test. To do this, it accesses and combs through credit card data and cell phone records, and then share location information with the public via text message and website, allowing people to determine the best way to protect themselves. South Korea containment strategy work. The research find nothing the residents of Seoul use the information to strategically after their commuting and social habits. Using cell phone tracking data, that demonstrate that people over 60 who are most susceptible to the virus tend to work from home and curtail social activity. 16 years above did not allow to work, only can work from home. Younger South Korean road their commute away from districts with more infection. They also often manage to change their route, but their purchasing behavior. For example, some might have avoided a coffee shop that had recently had several positive patients in it, but they still bought coffee. They simply went to other shop where there was a lower risk of catching the virus. The research compares South Korea's strategy with other action it could have taken according their model Seoul, a densely packed city of 10 million people, will see 529 cases, 1,700 deaths, and a 1.2% loss of GDP over 2 years. If the country maintains the current procedure, in all other scenarios, they model infection, death, and damage to the economic climate. If the country were to eliminate the contact tracing program and stop disseminating information and instead implement lockdown, it would see about 1.3 million COVID-19 cases and more than 300 deaths over 2 years, according to the model's death estimate. The more stringent the lockdown, the harder to hit the economy. So the South Koreans take different policies from another country, such as Malaysia. Malaysians take seriously lockdown after spread the COVID-19 in our country, but South Korea make a different way. They have a technology and they have a good thinking. That's all from me. The government expenditure of South Korea from December 2019, the change is 6.18%. That means 455,850 Korean won. To January 2020, the change is negative 89.32. That means 48698 Korean won. The change is decreased drastically from the December 2019 to 2020. This is because of COVID-19. That's all.
So I want to share you about South Korea inflation rate. South Korea consumer price remain unchanged year on year in June 2020 from a 0.3% decline in the previous month, while market expect a 0.1% drop. Main downward pressure came from price from for transport, down 5.6% after falling 6.1% in May. Also, education price fell 2.9% after decreasing 2.8%. In contrast, price for food and beverage climbed 3.3% after rising 2.4% on a monthly basis. Consumer price went up 0.2% after declining 0.2% in May and climbing more than market expectation of 0.05%. Next, inflation rate in South Korea. The most important categories in the consumer price index are housing, water, electricity, gas and other food and non-alcoholic beverage. Others include restaurant and hotel, education, transportation, health and clothing and footwear. The component with the least weight are communication at 5.8%. Miscellaneous goods and service at 5.4%. Recreation and culture at 5.3%. Furnishing, household equipment and routine maintenance at 3.8%, and alcoholic beverage and tobacco at 1.24%.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Shukri Hilman bin Abdul Shukor. I am from SR11706. My metric card is 2017466442. I am deputy for this group. Okay, now my turn to share you all about the employment in South Korea. First, I want to share you all about the history employment in South Korea. Since undergoing rapid economic development in 1960, the Republic of Korea employment rate has been consistently low. After process of democratization in the late 1980s, Korea saw a sharp increase in labor participation and hence a low employment rate from 1980 until 1998 ASEAN financial crisis. The employment rate averaged approximately 2.3%. The 1998 ASEAN financial crisis saw the employment rate skyrocket to 7%, totaling 1,490,000 people. Compare the 2008 global financial crisis had minimal effect on South Korea, with the employment rate rising from 3.16% to 3.64%. From 2008 to 2013, the employment rate remained really steady, averaging at 3.4%. In the past year, however, it has been steady rising, and as 2019 is 4.8%, the highest employment rate since the ASEAN financial crisis. Okay, next I want to share you all about the employment rate in South Korea. The employment rate in the South Korea of April 2019 is 4.8%, about 1,197 people. Since its rapid globalization and democratization, the employment rate has been comparatively low compared to most OECD countries. However, in the past decade, the employment rate has been rising steadily, going against the OECD average of 1.6% drop over the same time. Despite being ASEAN's fourth largest economy, the country boom export are mostly due to major manufacturing company rely on outsourcing lower payroll to mitigate the country minimum wage increase. The South Korea to the top, the International Federation Robotic IFR. Robot list 381 robot per 10,000 employee. Culture issues, the gender pay gap and historical view about the role of women and men in the workplace and at home contribute to rising employment rate as there is a push contractual, not standard work and self-employment in compense for the minimal wage increase the South Korea. The emphasis of higher education in the South Korea further rules and employment rate to many adults choosing to competitively and further qualification of opposed to joining the workforce. There are also several measurements different between the standard of measurements set by the International Labour Organization and official measurement and employment in the Republic of Korea. Set the statistic, the Korea the contribute the inflated employment rate when measurement compare the country and abide strictly by the standard set International Labour Organization. The official measurement of employment by the Korea differs slightly from the international standard set by the International Labour Organization, and this may skew the rate in different directions.